Hello, I'm Ronnie Eldridge. Welcome to Eldridge and Company. Next year, there'll be both a presidential election and a national census. Both have important consequences and both require much attention. Samar Khurshid, the senior staff reporter for the online Gotham Gazette, recently wrote a long column about preparations that are being made in New York City and New York State, and he's my guest today. And welcome.
Thanks for having me, Ronnie.
So let's just do the general overall package. The census comes every 10 years, mandated by the Constitution.
Yes.
Right.
And it's count of every resident of the United States. It doesn't say every citizen, it says every resident. which is very important. Yes,
right.
exactly.
Okay. And the census itself is such an important document. Every year an important document, right?
Right.
They have all different kinds of
Well, the census,
collections.
It forms the basis for the ongoing sort of American Community Survey that happens every year, and that determines everything from federal funding, and it determines everything for like businesses looking to explore where to invest their resources. And so it's extremely important because if there's an undercount, as people fear there might be next year, it could lead to governments, municipalities making the wrong decisions about where to invest their resources.
It's also the basis for reapportionment for the House of Representatives.
Of course. New York stands to lose 2 seats if there's an undercount.
Isn't that terrible?
Especially under, as important as the Electoral College has become in, as you can see from the previous election, people are very worried about that.
And it's important because it distributes, what, almost $700 billion?
Yes, and New York State alone gets about $80 billion.
So that goes through the states?
Yes.
According a lot of times to the population?
Exactly, because it's everything from transit funding to infrastructure to education to healthcare. This is all determined by the needs of your population, and if you don't have a correct assessment of who lives in your state, you're not going to be able to get the right amount of funding from the federal government.
Right, and I think that the people in the government, everybody is very concerned about it.
Oh, yes.
For a lot of reasons about
Absolutely.
what's going to happen this year, right?
Now, there's several challenges for next year, and advocates and local governments are very worried. There's, of course, they're shifting to a digital methodology.
Right.
In the past, it was paper. This time, it's going to be online, which is seniors don't necessarily use computers as much. There's communities that don't have access to the internet as much. And also, there's other challenges. Underfunding. There aren't going to be as many census enumerators, the counters who actually go out to communities and contact people. There's, of course, the citizenship question that the Trump administration wants to include, which everyone fears is going to lead to undercounts in immigrant populations, which are already at risk of at an undercount. And
the general reputation of the government.
Right, exactly.
Trustworthiness
and there's a sort of heightened atmosphere of anxiety and fear. And then, of course, there's a small thing that's not the biggest challenge, but it's that previous presidents had approved a waiver for the Census Bureau to hire non-citizens as counters.
And they want non-citizens because they speak a language that...
Exactly, and they're more likely to be, communities are more likely to trust those, especially undocumented immigrants are more likely to trust people from their communities who can sort of do the outreach on the ground that the Census Bureau itself can't.
Why is the budget a concern? Why are they spending less money?
Why is also, it's sort of what the Trump administration, you can ask why for a lot of reasons. But the shift to digital methodology means that there's less, few of the mail-outs that they're doing with paper questionnaires last time. So I'm assuming they expect to be able to do the job with with less funding, but that also means they're also putting fewer people on the ground. So it's now incumbent on state and local governments to make up that shortfall, to commit sort of their own funding to...
They have to fill in.
Exactly, and the city is doing that. The state has yet to give any indication that it's catching up. The city is way ahead of... New York City is already... They budgeted about $4.3 million in the last budget, and that was sort of initial efforts.
So the city and state have to spend their own money?
Yes, and advocates estimate they need at least, community advocates, these are the people who are sort of in a coalition called the New York Counts 2020 Coalition, And it's a broad coalition across the state of immigrant community groups like Make the Road and New York Immigration Coalition. And these are the people that deal with...
But also other nonprofits.
Yes, a
lot of them.
sort of broad swath of
And
nonprofits.
big organizations.
Exactly, and they're across the state.
Right.
And they're the people who deal with these hard-to-count populations. Those are the populations that tend to they don't respond as much to the questionnaires, to the initial questionnaires, as other communities. So they're at risk of being undercounted. These groups work with these communities on a daily basis, and they estimate they need as much as $40 million to do an adequate count. And now there's no funding allocations yet from the state or the city.
Does the city have money in the budget?
Well, they put in, as I said, they put in
We
$4.3 million in the last year's budget.
So we don't know what'll come this year.
And the mayor has taken steps. The Deputy Mayor Phil Thompson is sort of leading the effort. There's and Julie Menon has just been assigned as the director of the census effort. And so the city seems to be taking it seriously.
Is she leaving the motion picture job? Or
yes, she's got two new portfolios, including the census as well as a strategic policy portfolio.
Oh, interesting.
And so that's so the city obviously seems to be taking it seriously.
So I imagine all these groups are also lobbying the governor to include a sizable amount of money.
They have been, but they haven't heard much from the state yet. The state's been doing its own things, but not as fast as they need to be. They've been working on updating the address files and updating the census's database so that when the mailers or when the online digital codes go out, they go to the accurate addresses. If there's people who haven't been included, they're included. But what they need to do now, and I expect that the governor might address this in his State of the State tomorrow, is that they need to show that they're going to put a lot of money into it, and as well as the state was supposed to in last year's budget, they passed a measure that would create a complete count committee for the state, which is supposed to look into these issues and issue a report to the governor, to the state, in January. That there's no indication that's happened yet, or if it has happened, it isn't publicly known yet. So that's something they need to be moving on very quickly.
Now let's talk about the addresses. First, let me understand. Now the federal government has divided the country, I think, into 5 sections. They've halved what they used to have in 210.
Right.
So they're down to 5 area things, and then I think there's something like 249 within each area.
So regional.
Right. But are they mailing out the first?
So the first round this year is going to be a digital code. So people have the option to opt out of doing it digitally. They can do a paper questionnaire. They can request it. But unlike past censuses, where they would send out a paper questionnaire, this one's going to be a digital code encouraging people to go to the census website or fill it out and then send it back.
So there has to be a public information campaign to get you to go to the site. It's not going to come to you in your mailbox.
It will, but they'll be mailing out a digital code. That's the thing.
But how are they going to get everybody's email addresses?
No. What they'll do is they will mail you a paper thing with a digital code.
Oh, I see.
And you use that to get online.
I got it. So it will be a first mailing.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, I should clarify that.
And when they talk about updating the address list, I mean, people have to remember they're talking about everybody in the United States.
Well, each state, I assume, is doing their own efforts, because New York has been trying to, and it's a 10-year gap, right?
Yeah.
So there's now communities that didn't exist 10 years ago. There's a burgeoning Bangladeshi community in New York City that 10 years ago wouldn't have been at risk of an undercount because it was smaller. Now it's the fastest growing immigrant population, I believe. And the state is taking time and has been doing, since the last summer, I believe, has been updating the census master list of addresses to make sure that people now who live in areas that 10 years ago didn't exist are now included in that master list.
And there's a strong incentive for the state to maximize its effectiveness so that they get more money.
Absolutely.
So we don't have to worry really about encouraging them. I mean, they should have that inherent encouragement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they recognized that last year when they said when they passed the complete counts committee measure. But it doesn't seem like they've done enough since then. Now they have plenty of time, but the advocates want to get this started as quickly as possible. They're already going. They're already hitting the ground running, and they want the state to catch up, because the first questionnaires won't go out until next year in March or April. So they have this sort of long runway to get this stuff done. But it's also very important that they don't delay any longer, because again, there's communities that are hard to count as is, and that's without now this new atmosphere of sort of anxiety that, especially among undocumented immigrants, that their information might be passed on to immigration enforcement. Although legally under the law, then that's not allowed, but they're still worried. I mean, there's also populations that aren't counted in previous censuses. For instance, black communities, even in who live in public housing and low-income black communities, as well as middle and upper middle income black communities in Southeast Queens, for instance. They don't fill out the questionnaire at the same, they fill out the questionnaire at a lower rate than other communities. So these are the things that the city is already grappling with. The state hasn't given an indication that it is.
That's hard.
Yeah, and there's supposed to be a report soon, which would sort of identify these challenges as well as ways to address them.
Who in the state is responsible for it, do you know? Is there an agency that it comes under?
Well, it's sort of a multi-agency effort, which isn't surprising. It's going to need a lot of agencies to compile all this information. So I don't know what's happening there. There's just, because there's supposed to be the Complete Counts Commission that's supposed to do that work, and that hasn't been created.
So we can hope that with the new energy in the state legislature, more attention will be paid to it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it should be paid in either way, because this affects everything from federal funding to, as I said, businesses. It's in everyone's interest to make sure that every person in New York State is counted.
Absolutely. I just want to talk about a few things. College students who are not living at home but are living on a campus.
Right.
They vote on the campus. Are they counted on the campus?
So there is an effort to make sure, especially I think that they're doing it at the state level as well as the city level, that they will set up, help desks and things at college campuses. And it's something that the immigrant community groups, the community organizations, the nonprofits, are also focused on.
But does that mean the money will go to the community in which they're in college?
I don't think that's how it is. I think you still indicate where you're from.
But in prison, what happens in prisons? I for some reason, I can't think of this.
I honestly, I'm not sure. It's not something I've looked at.
Yeah,
That's a good question.
I have a feeling, and I don't know why, that they're counted in the prison, but I don't understand why that would be. Anyway, we'll have to discuss this at another time, right?
Right.
So this is a major effort.
Yes, it's going to be a Herculean effort.
Yeah. And what happens in states that have had voter suppression? It's going to be even a harder job.
Well, I'm not sure that voter suppression equates directly with census efforts.
Well, you don't think so? That voters who are so suspicious of things that may...
Well, I mean, that's true. That's true.
That fits into the whole general pattern.
Perhaps. I mean, the funny thing is people say that up until, I guess, today, because they're passing all these voting reforms, that New York engages in passive voter suppression, right? But again, the challenge, as the experts will tell you, all the demographic experts, the advocates will tell you, is making sure that people are comfortable enough to know that if they fill this questionnaire out, it's in their own interest. That them hiding from the census is only going to hurt them and not help them, because this information is going to be protected. It's going to be used to find out where states and cities need to send money and funding. It's going to affect the most needy, the elderly, children, and the homeless. If you don't have a good count of, for instance, for how many homeless people you have in your city, you don't know how much funding you need to attack the problem. So that's at the core of the census, is that.
Yeah. Where do you come from? What country are you from?
Oh, I'm from India.
And you're not a permanent resident here?
No, I'm on a work visa.
So how do they count the population in India?
We have a census as
You
well.
do?
Yeah, we have a.
Is it every 10 years?
Yes. Yeah. Same.
Same way?
Yeah, same
Is
way.
it patterned after the census, or?
I'm not sure. I've never written about the census back home. Yeah, but it is again a monumental effort considering we have.
Imagine, yeah.
We have more than 1.3 billion people. So, but you know, it's the same challenges, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's figuring out where to send your resources.
I find you're so interesting to me, so I'd like to now switch a little bit to you.
Sure.
You came to the country, what, 4 or 5 years ago?
August 2013, yes.
Oh.
I came here for grad school, went to NYU to study magazine journalism. In my last semester, I started interning at Gotham Gazette. Spent quite a few months there, spent a summer in DC working on Capitol Hill at Roll Call. Came back, and then eventually I was hired full time. And so now I've been at Gotham Gazette for 3 years.
And did you know about American politics?
Only vaguely. I came to sort of learn about, sort of expand my reporting skills and learn how to write long form, and I did. And I sort of learned by doing, and you know, for instance, going to Capitol Hill was a crash course.
Must have been something, huh?
It was absolutely fascinating,
Yeah.
seeing all that up close.
You worked in India, though.
Yes, for 2 years.
With a newspaper?
With a national newspaper in
Yeah.
English. It's the second largest English language daily. It's called the Hindustan Times.
Right.
And I was in the feature section.
Right.
But I was starting to stagnate at work, so I decided I need to maybe expand both my reporting and writing skills.
And how do you see what the future is going to be? You're going to stay with...
For me?
Yeah.
Tough question. It's something I think about daily. Because of the complexities of the visa system, it's not the easiest thing to switch to a different job or to even expand or even freelance or write for other places. It's very limiting. I know many people have gone through this, and it's extremely tough. So I'm in the middle of deciding whether I want to stay here for another year or maybe perhaps go home and try to pursue. I haven't been there in 5 years. It's going to be tough as well. So go back into
the politics and stuff there.
Exactly.
But you would go back into journalism?
Oh, absolutely.
Stay in journalism
Absolutely.
wherever you are.
Yeah.
So you came here on a student visa. You decided you wanted to go to graduate school here.
Yes.
So how do you do that? You apply, you go to the American Embassy? I mean, I don't think people have the faintest idea what you have to go through.
You apply to a bunch of schools. Well, I applied to a bunch of schools because you always want to have,
Right.
cover your bases. And I chose NYU. If you get into a grad school here, it's very easy to get a visa. It's almost sort of guaranteed that you will get that visa.
Can you do that by a form? Online?
Well, yeah, you fill it out online, you go in for an interview.
Where do you go? To the embassy?
To the American Embassy in New Delhi. That's where I live. Yeah, but it's almost a perfunctory interview because they see that you've been accepted by a well-known university. If I was on a work visa, if I was trying to get a work visa or even a tourist visa, it might be a little bit tougher.
Yeah. So you came to graduate school.
Yes.
And after that, you started to work. Did you have to change your visa?
I did not. There are programs that allow you to work on a student visa.
So you're still on a student visa?
Not anymore. I got
what happened?
I got a work visa in 2017.
And how do you do that?
Through a very through a months-long, expensive process of getting an immigration lawyer and applying for the visa that works for you and proving that you can work and have worked here.
And have a job?
And have a job, yes.
Right.
You can't get that without a job first,
Right.
yeah. That's
So
the tough part.
you told about an incident on your Facebook page.
On Twitter, yes.
On Twitter. Tell me what that was.
Oh, so this was right after I'd been done with school, with grad school, and I was trying to get an employment authorization document to start working. And unfortunately, I thought at the time that if I didn't get the document in time, if I didn't start working, it would eat into my sort of this unemployment, like the amount of time you can be unemployed before you sort of risk your visa status.
Right.
Because the system here is, the immigration system, USCIS, it's very complicated. And it's very unnerving, having to sort of navigate that on your own.
Yeah.
So I was approved, and I was supposed to start working the next week, except my document keeps telling me it's delivered, but I can't find it, and I haven't got it. I go run pillar to post. I go to the USPS. I ask them what's gone wrong. They're like, it's delivered. It's not here. I'm panicking. Then I realize they've sent it to the wrong zip code. I live in Malcolm X in Brooklyn. They sent it to Malcolm X in Manhattan, which is up in Harlem. I go up there on a lark, try to ring the bell. No one lives there, or at least no one's answering.
To the address that you
address that I live.
You live in Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn, and I went to Manhattan. I put a note under the door, sort of a Hail Mary, and I get a call back a couple of days later from George Nash, who is a Christmas tree salesman who lives there only a couple of weeks a year.
Oh, interesting.
And whenever he comes there, and this was in December,
yeah.
So that's the only
That's
time
a
he
good
lives
season.
there. Yeah. So he calls me. He says, I usually come here and I throw away all my mail because it's all junk mail and it's not for me. Except he sees that this mail is from Vermont, and he's from Vermont, and he knows that's where they process all these documents. And he sees that it's from UCI, so he's a little smart about it, and he says, all right, I'm not going to throw this away. And then he calls me, and you know, it's nothing short of a miracle.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, and then the next year, I remember.
Did you buy a Christmas tree?
No, a friend of mine was writing a profile on NBC of these Christmas tree people who sell Christmas trees, and the top picture and the profile was George Nash.
Oh, that's so.
And I've seen him in a number of sort of stories since then in the New York Times as well, and it's just fascinating.
That's so interesting,
Yeah.
isn't it? So it is a very formidable thing.
It's daunting. You're completely uncertain. It's very unnerving
What
to try and apply
happens
for
to
it.
somebody who say they haven't even finished high school and they're here? How do they manage to do this?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's very tough. You know, I have a friend going through the same process that I went through to get my visa right now, and I didn't have to go through these extra steps, but now he's having to go through this, like, provide additional documentation, and it just sounds like, you know, they're just making him go through this whole rigmarole, and he's worried about what he's going to do, because if he doesn't get that, it literally for him means picking up his entire life and leaving the United States, you know. And when you've lived here for instance, when I've lived here for 5 years, and I feel like I've made an entire life here, and if I'm told that I can't renew my visa, then I have 2 months to pack up 5 years worth of living.
And they come to check whether you've left or not, I assume.
Well, they might not.
Yeah, you don't
because
know.
that's. I mean, you know, most undocumented immigrants
Have
in the United
overstayed.
States are people who overstayed their visas. Yeah, I guess so. I guess it's not strict enforcement, but that's a very big risk to take, right?
And you live with great stress.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, it's every interaction with the federal government would just be nerve-wracking.
So you've lived here now for more than 4 years.
More than 5 years. Yeah.
What are your observations? What do you think are the greatest problems we face?
I think they're no different than the greatest problems any society faces. Some things continue to baffle me. Debates over climate change, for instance, or you know, whether transgender people should be afforded the same rights as everyone else. It's things like that are settled in India, you know, and they aren't here. But
That's interesting.
and everyone, and anytime someone asks me what's the politics like in India, I'm like, it's the same. We have in power a right nationalist government led by a authoritarian, a leader with authoritarian tendencies, who a party that undermines and attacks the press, the free press and the media, and has cracked down on press freedom, and that is opposed to gay rights, that is opposed to immigration, that is jingoistic, opposed to Muslim rights, and is beating the drumbeat of war. And anytime, and
It's so similar.
exactly, and the party in opposition, the main party, I mean, we have a multi-party system, you know, but the main opposition party that was in power for the previous two governments is a left of center, secular, you know, and it feels like I'm describing the Republicans and Democrats sometimes.
Yeah. And what about the poverty?
The poverty is probably one
It's
of
worldwide.
I mean, worldwide poverty is an
Yeah.
issue, right?
Yeah.
New York City has a homelessness crisis
Right.
just as much as New Delhi does. And there have been successive governments that have tried to tackle it in different ways. Unfortunately, some more successful than others. And when you say that poverty's been declining in India, it's true, it has, but in absolute numbers, it's still a massive problem. If it's 20% of the population as opposed to 25% of the population, however many years ago, it's still 20% of a very large number. So that's and it's we're about 70 years away from independence, so we're still a young democracy. I think we're stumbling along, but we'll get there.
And you're very hopeful.
Everything I read in the news makes me want to be a cynic, but I also believe in the better nature of people, so I'm hopeful.
Well, thank you so much for coming, and thank you for being here.
Of course.
And we enjoyed it so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.